Today, I'm ranking every main character in Alien 3. The first, but certainly not last, truly polarizing film in the series, with its disappointing story decisions and weird CGI, but also a completely new tone that makes the distant future look almost as miserable as the present. I mean, damn, this movie is grimy. Instead of a spaceship or a terraforming colony, this time Ripley finds herself trapped in a prison on a faraway planet with a new type of xenomorph hunting her and the inmates inside, forcing them to showcase their skills as they struggle to maintain their morale.
What are we gonna do?
Well, now what are we gonna do?
What the fuck do we do now?
What if somebody screws it up?
We're fucked.
We're fucked.
No. You're fucked.
Fuck!
We start the film immediately after the events of Aliens, with Ripley, Newt, and Hicks sleeping in their cryotubes, allowing a facehugger to infiltrate the area undetected and cause them to crash land on a mysterious planet called Fury 161. A bit later, a man finds Ripley unconscious on the shore, and the film gives us a cool shot as he carries her into a nearby facility. The man then begins resuscitating Ripley by telling her his favorite horror movie.
Talk to me.
But Ripley doesn't share his opinion. Well, I thought it was pretty good. We then meet Warden Harold Andrews speaking to a group of male prisoners about the ship that landed near them and the woman that has made her way into their prison. One of the convicts reveals his conviction when he tells the warden that he's taken a vow of celibacy and doesn't want a woman around to tempt him or the other inmates. The warden, though, already understands the potential danger of his population, telling them that Ripley will stay in a different part of the prison and letting us know what kind of vile people get sent to this place.
Thieves, rapists, murderers, child molesters.
Meanwhile, the man who saved Ripley from the crash continues his treatment on her, now attempting to inject her with a concoction of his own creation, only for Ripley to wake up and ask what he's doing. The man then introduces himself as Clemens, the chief medical officer of Fury 161, a work prison owned by Weyland-Yutani. Oh, brother. However, when he tells her that nobody else survived the crash, she demands to see the ship, and when she gets to it, the film doubles down on its dumbass decision to kill off two of the franchise's most iconic characters with off-screen deaths done so unceremoniously that it makes you question everything you thought you knew about storytelling. When Ripley asks about the bodies of Hicks and Newt, Clemens tells her that they took them to the morgue, but before going there to see them, Ripley displays some observational skill when she notices a burn mark on one of the cryotubes, insinuating that an alien had made its way onto their ship at the end of the previous film. Of course. On their way to the morgue, Clemens tells Ripley that Newt drowned to death, but Ripley still insists on seeing her body to confirm how she died, making sure not to tell Clemens her pretty likely theory that an alien had something to do with it, seeing as Clemens works for Weyland-Yutani, the evil corporation who has screwed her over more than once now. Skepticism! After inspecting Newt's body and seeing no giant holes in her chest, Ripley shows some caution and wants to perform an autopsy to make sure a xenomorph didn't kill her, but continues to hide this theory from Clemens by telling him that she thinks Newt may have had cholera. What did you call her? After Clemens finishes the autopsy though, he reveals some perceptiveness and asks Ripley what she's really looking for, understanding that she lied to him about the cholera. Before she can answer him, however, the warden enters the room and gets mad at Clemens for performing an autopsy without his consent. Ripley and Clemens though demonstrate their unspoken chemistry as they manage to pacify the warden by explaining the threat of cholera to the prison, which both convinces him to let them use the furnace to cremate the bodies and ultimately legitimizes Ripley's caution. Meanwhile, two inmates hang up a dead animal that they plan to use for meat, but have no idea how it died, and seconds later, they find the corpse of a facehugger lying nearby. Here we go again. As the entire prison population gathers around the furnace to cremate Hicks's and Newt's bodies, a xenomorph erupts from the animal carcass in some other part of the prison and quickly runs away. Unaware of the new enemy on the loose, Clemens once again asks Ripley about what she was looking for inside of Newt, but Ripley reveals some pent-up horniness and offers to get hot and heavy with Clemens, who can't afford to turn her down after going so long without some sweaty somersaulting. A bit later, the warden's assistant, whom the inmates have nicknamed 85 for his below-average IQ, calls Clemens to the air shaft to examine the body of a prisoner who fell into an industrial fan. Clemens then reveals his observational and deductive abilities when he notices a burn mark near the accident and recognizes how similar it is to the one Ripley saw in her crashed vehicle a while ago. Meanwhile, Ripley finds the flight recorder from the ship, and though she still won't tell Clemens about the xenomorph, he tells her where to find Bishop so she can play the audio on the flight recorder. After Ripley grabs Bishop from the junkyard, a group of prisoners led by a man cosplaying as Riddick tackle and restrain her as they revert back to their depravity upon seeing the first woman to arrive at this place. Before they can fully unleash their savagery though, the leader of the prisoners, Leonard Dillon, shows some conviction and beats the others with a pipe, giving Ripley the opportunity to show her vindictiveness and punch a prisoner in the face. Nice. Ripley then wakes up the last remnants of Bishop and uses him to find out what happened on the ship, learning that an alien caused their cryotubes to malfunction and ultimately leading to the deaths of Hicks and Newt. After Ripley euthanizes Bishop, some prisoners drag Walter, now covered in blood, into a nearby hospital bed. Believing him to have killed 2 of the other prisoners, they tie him up, even as he tells them that something else killed them. Ripley then barges in and tells the warden about the dangers of the xenomorph, but he shows his poor openness and doesn't believe her, saying that even if he did believe her, they don't have any guns and only have some knives and a few axes to fight an alien.
Then we're fucked.
Yep. Ripley then meets back up with Clemens, who once again asks her what she's hiding, but Ripley continues to keep him in the dark before she begins suddenly coughing. Well, that can't be good. As Clemens prepares to give Ripley another dose of his special cocktail, the xenomorph descends from behind the curtain and punctures his forehead, killing him. While Clemens didn't display much physically before his untimely demise, he demonstrated a few mental advantages that would likely benefit him in more cerebral horror movies. His perceptiveness, medical knowledge, and observation give him a viable support role that would likely garner him influence as well, leaving the desperate doctor with a disrespectful death in B2. Meanwhile, the warden makes another set of announcements to the prisoners in the mess hall, only for Ripley to rush inside and yell about the xenomorph killing Clemens. The warden, though, doesn't believe her and calls her foolish, allowing the alien to prove the warden wrong as it pulls him into the ceiling and kills him. In the end, the warden doesn't stand out much, and due to his poor openness, may fall victim to the countless bizarre phenomena that exist in horror. I mean, the same thing would probably happen with any kind of monster. He just wouldn't believe it until it was too late. On the other hand, he also displays strong enough leadership qualities to prevent inmates from killing him despite being outnumbered and having no weapons, even leaving them feeling distraught at the idea of continuing without him. With all that said, his negatives find themselves mostly balanced by his main positive, sending the whiny warden without a worry for weapons to C2. With the warden now dead, the prisoners look to Dylan for leadership, but he declines and says that Ripley should lead them. Showing some planning ability, Ripley comes up with a strategy to lure the alien down some tunnels and then trap it in a radioactive disposal area. Unfortunately though, as the prisoners paint the floors with flammable liquid, the xenomorph attacks one of them and causes him to inadvertently set off a chain reaction that sets the tunnels on fire, killing many of the inmates. Dylan, however, shows his selflessness and makes an effort to help his fellow convicts, even as the massive fire continues to spread. As the surviving inmates make their way to safety, the xenomorph approaches them, but one of the inmates finds himself alone and leads the xenomorph away from the others, allowing them to seal the doors and separate themselves from the xenomorph. Yes! Unfortunately though, damn it, a prisoner named Morse feels bad for the still captive Walter and sets him free, only for him to knock out Morse, sneak to the radioactive waste room, kill the person guarding it, and free the xenomorph. Well. Unaware of the returning danger, Ripley talks to Dylan about the hubris of Weyland-Yutani, who are now on their way to the prison after learning about Ripley's arrival. As the conversation continues, Ripley explains to Dylan that they don't want to kill the xenomorph but study and use it for their own gain. However, while Ripley wants to prevent them from getting their hands on it to keep innocent people from dying, Dylan displays his apathy and says he no longer cares about the world beyond the prison.
Fuck them.
Well, damn. Ripley then starts feeling nauseous and weak again, so she goes to the limited medical facility and begins looking at her internal organs, unfortunately coming across a queen xenomorph gestating inside of her. Fuck! Meanwhile, Dylan, now knowing about the xenomorph having escaped, once again displays his leadership skill and congregates the remaining inmates before telling them his uninspiring plan to hold out in the assembly hall until Weyland-Yutani's rescue team arrives. Elsewhere, Ripley demonstrates some poor self-preservation but strong information gathering as she seeks out the xenomorph to determine whether or not it will kill her while she has an alien inside of her, and much like she hypothesizes, it doesn't. Ripley then tells Dylan about the queen xenomorph gestating within her, letting him know that if it lives, it can create many more xenomorphs and destroy humanity, so she showcases her selflessness and asks Dylan to kill her. Damn, it's really over for Ripley. As Dylan prepares to chop her head off, Ripley stands against the bars and soon hears a loud clank, but instead of dying, she sees Dylan revealing some resourcefulness as he plans to use the fact that the xenomorph won't kill her to create a plan to defeat it. Despite her anger at Dylan not killing her now, Ripley agrees to help fight the alien, but only if Dylan will kill her afterwards. Man, she really wants to die. As a convicted murderer, Dylan accepts her offer, describing her future execution the same way a doctor lies about how it feels getting a shot.
Quick. Easy and painless.
And it never is. A bit later, Ripley and Dylan join the remaining inmates and tell them that they need to kill the alien before Weyland-Yutani arrive because they only want the creature and will likely kill everyone at the prison in their mission to retrieve it. The inmates though don't want to face the alien again, so Ripley displays her persuasion by convincing them to join in on a new plan to lure the xenomorph into a mold for hot lead that can hopefully deal enough damage to kill it. The convicts then start running through a series of tunnels with nothing but kitchen utensils to protect themselves, forcing Morse to showcase his caution by teaching his fellow inmate how to safely hold scissors.
Hold it like this. What the fuck? Kill someone, you fucking moron.
Good job! As the xenomorph tears through the prisoners, the scientists from Weyland-Yutani finally arrive and begin heading towards Ripley, who now finds herself in a pit to lure in and trap the alien, and when it approaches, Morse seals the door, trapping Ripley and Dylan in the tunnel with the alien. Still demonstrating poor self-preservation, Ripley simply stands as the hot lead prepares to pour inside, but Dylan compels her to climb out. As he follows her though, the xenomorph begins climbing as well, so Dylan descends back into the mold to keep the alien's attention, showcasing his martyrdom by telling Ripley to pour the lead while the xenomorph attacks him. Ripley though just tells Morse to do it, and despite not wanting to kill his friend, does pour the lead on both the alien and Dylan, killing the convict. Let's talk about Dylan. As the unofficial leader of the prisoners, Dylan demonstrates strong leadership qualities, garnering respect and loyalty from all of the other inmates, likely giving him an advantage in zombie and post-apocalyptic movies, where survival often depends on interactions with groups. He also showcases a willingness to sacrifice himself to maintain his objectives, hurting his odds of surviving various horror situations but raising his odds of completing his mission. Overall, Dylan's positive traits do just enough to place him in the upper half of the scale and leave the commanding convict with a commendable conclusion in A2. After pouring the molten lead, Morse begins laughing at the dead alien, only for it to jump out and onto the nearby pipes. Displaying his knowledge, Morse tells Ripley to turn on the sprinklers to rapidly chill the now burning xenomorph, which causes it to explode. Science! Unfortunately though, despite having killed the xenomorph, they now have to contend with Weyland-Yutani, who has just arrived and is still looking for Ripley. The leader of this group looks like Bishop, but he tells Ripley that he isn't another android, but the one who designed him. He then tells Ripley that he can remove the xenomorph inside of her and that they don't plan to keep it alive, but Ripley displays her skepticism and poor self-preservation as she moves away from him and over a vat of molten metal. As the xenomorph finally prepares to escape her body, Ripley once again shows her self-sacrifice and drops into the metal, keeping hold of the xenomorph to make sure it goes down with her. Damn. Let's talk about Ripley. Unfortunately, Ripley didn't perform as well this time around, but still managed to demonstrate the qualities for a strong survivor. She once again demonstrated great leadership skills and information gathering, enabling her to develop strategies to combat the xenomorph without any kind of conventional weapons. While her self-preservation didn't stand out in a good way,
I wanna die!
her resolve and observation maintained their value from the previous film, leading to her successfully preventing Weyland-Yutani from capturing the xenomorph. She may have been too trusting of Clemens though, letting him inject her with who knows what just because he called himself a doctor. All in all, Ripley again proved herself as the best survivor in the film, leaving the maligned mother turned molten martyr in A2. But that's it. The average rank for this cast was B2, with many of the inmates taking the miscellaneous score to below average levels. I mean, how do you free a xenomorph that had already killed a bunch of people and that you only barely managed to trap? That's not very survivor skill of you. Thanks for watching.
Why don't you shut the fuck up?